Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to flip through this lovely vintage junk journal. It's a teacher's book and it's full of authentic vintage ephemera and book pages. No printables at all. This journal is very much inspired by Hyperstamper. She's a Canadian lady who has a new vintage junk journal to share almost every day, and she never ever uses printables. So I challenged myself to do the same. And that's why everything in this book is real. Most of the ephemera is from 1940s or 1950s, but I don't guarantee that everything in my journal is vintage, as I do not know the exact age of every piece. For example, this tassel is made of thrift store finds, but they're probably not quite vintage yet. I just picked up some fibers on this lovely piece of necklace that have the same colors as this beautiful cover of the book. This book is from 1950s and it's about a young lady who gets a job as a teacher. So I made it a teacher's book. This is original handwriting here. The book was gifted to somebody in 1953 from Aunt Lundén. An image from 1904. This is from a vintage dictionary, the word teaching. This beautiful card is authentic vintage. It's unused, so I don't know how old it is, but it definitely looks vintage. This magazine cut is from 1920s. The pocket is made of a vintage pillowcase, probably a baby's pillowcase, as it was very small. A blank page with a cluster of paper scrap and stamps. Hyperstamper also uses stamps, so I also decorated some of the pages with stamps. This image of a mother is from 1950s, and I added a sample of yarn because she's knitting. This is the back of a 1940s paperback book. Another lovely image of a 1950s family. This is an authentic old letter from France. It's antique. The handwriting is very messy, looks like a child's handwriting. Here you can see the date it was written. I found these drawings inside an old book. They're from 1979, so it's almost vintage. Here's a tag with a cornflower. Hyperstamper also uses pressed flowers from her garden, so pressed plants are okay in her style, as they're real. I made the tag from this thing that I found from a thrift store. I don't know how old it is, but it definitely looks vintage. This is one of the first pages of the book, and you can see when and where it was printed. And also the name of the illustrator of this book, Maija Karma. She was a talented Finnish illustrator. I really love this cover. It's so beautiful and the colors are just wonderful. Vintage snaps from Germany. Very pretty, love this color. These are Finnish movie stars from 1940s or 1930s. Somebody has glued them down to an old composition book from school. And this is from a vintage booklet of a French schoolgirl. It's about how well she did in various subjects at school in June, some year. I'm not quite sure what year it is. Rabbits from vintage book. A page from vintage children's book. It says grandmother and grandfather here, so I cut out this image of old people from a 1920s magazine and backed it with a piece of an old book page. And this is a very old letter to a young lady who became a teacher later in her life. her name is Annikki, and I found her letters from a thrift store. It's such a lovely piece of naturally aged, naturally shabby paper. I believe these red stamps of Queen Elizabeth are from 1950s. Another cutout from a vintage dictionary, Teach. This book page with kids and a cat is from 1960s. This page is from 1960s as well. It's from an Enid Blyton book. She was one of my favorite writers when I was a kid. It's from a Finnish translation. The belly band is from a vintage book and I added stamping and scraps. And here's a map of the United Kingdom from a vintage book. I thought that our imaginary teacher, the owner of this book, would become an English teacher later on, so she would be interested in England and the English language. This is an illustration from the original book. This is a card from an old memory game, looks vintage. A tag made of a 1940s book cover. A French letter card from 1955. Lovely photo of two young ladies. It's from 1941. This is a page from a small inventory book of large educational plates that teachers used back in time. I found it in a thrift store years ago, but I haven't used the pages in my junk journals until now. It's such a rare book that I really hated to break it. But now it's done, so I can use the rest of the pages in the future. It's from 1947. Here we can see young students from 1950. This is another letter to Annikki from 1940. Now she's already become a teacher and she's working as a teacher. So let's see the letter. Very nice handwriting. And the paper is very beautiful, lovely texture. This flips out and there's a little journaling spot. Vintage from Hungary. A page from a vintage children's book, Teddy Bears on a Picnic. Another page from a vintage book. This looks like a stamp, but it's drawing in this vintage book. Here's a nice play card. I think it's quite rare. I've never seen one like this before. The back of this card looks very 1960s or 70s, but it could be older. A magazine cut from 1920s. Another illustration from the original book. A collage of various vintage pictures. Images of plants here in this pocket. This is from a collection of educational images. I think these images were used by either teachers or pupils or both. This collection was printed in Sweden in 1959. This is from a vintage encyclopedia. It's from this gorgeous book. It looks antique, but it's actually from 1950, so it's 75 years old now. This transparent pocket is probably vintage too. I cut it from the piece that I found from a thrift store. This embroidery pattern is so beautiful, but I'm saving it to another journal. These beautiful flowers are from a vintage encyclopedia as well. This page is from a vintage math book. Apparently it's printed in 1950. The pocket is a pattern from 1970s, and these cute kids are from 1920s. This blue image is from 1940s. It's the same color as the back of this bird, so I thought they'd look great together. This is from 1950. This is from a Finnish edition of a book of birds that's translated to many languages. I've actually seen Hyperstamper use an English edition of this same book. A blank receipt for journaling. It's inspired by Hyperstamper as well. I made a tag from a piece of vintage book cover and a magazine cut. A blank piece of paper for journaling from a vintage book. The pocket is made of a vintage ledger page. This image is from 1949 and the handwriting is from a vintage composition book. This is the original magazine page that I used to create these kind of scrapbook pages. It's about a meeting for young Scandinavian students. Here's an encyclopedia page in between. Very beautiful. And the story continues. I love this title. We are so happily young. All of these beautiful young people are now grannies and grandpas if they're still alive. A black and white illustration of a school play from a vintage children's book. Another page from the bird book. Very beautiful birds. I believe the illustrator of this book was Scandinavian. Norwegian, I think. I think this is from 1940s. Ledger from 1950. This is one of my favorite spreads in this journal. I love the combination of a purple and brown and autumn colors. This wonderful shabby card from Paris was gifted to me by one of my daughters. She found it inside an old book and of course she knew that I would love to use it in a junk journal. So here it is. I found a great home for this card in this journal. There was a hole in the corner, so I added some purple fabric scraps to hide it. Here's a lovely embossed die cut I found in a thrift store. The back looks very white, so I'm not sure if it's vintage yet, but it's real pretty and I wanted to include it here. The pocket with Charlie Brown characters is from 1960s. Here I have ads from 1920s. And some lovely handwriting from 1950s ledger. Here's another one of my favorite spreads in neutral colors. This is an authentic old bingo card that I managed to find for this journal. Bingo cards are the staples of Hyperstamper as well, so I'm really very happy I found them, as my journal wouldn't be complete without a bingo card. I used stamps and a thrifted lace application to decorate the pockets made of a white section of a vintage book page. The pretty girls are from a vintage knitting magazine. The pocket is made of a vintage stamp collector's page, which is also something that Hyperstamper often uses in her junk journals, so I copied the idea from her. Here I have some vintage stamps in a vintage glassine bag, a little collage, knitting information from an encyclopedia. This lovely map looks new, but it's from a vintage book from 1950s. Lovely colors. Somebody has written Norway here. Another tag made of a 1940s paperback book. Cute Kids from 1946. Lovely crochet work. I only have this one page, so I don't know where it's from, but it looks very old. A cut from a vintage children's book. This is a Finnish translation of a famous book published originally in the 1940s. It's The Tall Book of Mother Goose in English. It's full of pretty images that look great in junk journals. This page is from a book about beautiful handwriting printed in 1952. Somebody has spilled blue ink on the page, so apparently somebody has actually used this book. It's a lovely book full of pretty pages. My journal is not for sale, but if you'd like to buy a journal like this, Hyperstamper sells them on Etsy, and you'll find a link to her shop if you watch some of her videos. So check out her channel if you like this style. I really enjoyed making this journal, and by the way, here's a little sneak peek to my next journal that it isn't quite finished yet, but I hope I'll be able to flip it through soon. So please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So we'll see you soon again. So I hope you liked this video and my journal as much as I loved making it. Have a wonderful day and see you in my next video. Bye!